Hello there Reason users, PoohBear here and welcome to my channel, and today we're going to look at how we can map individual pads to individual mixer channels, and we're also going to talk about the cons because there is actually a couple of downsides about doing this, and I'll talk about a couple of workarounds, and then I'm going to also talk about something very quickly at the end, and it's very easy to figure out, something a little bit special because I'm going to take this compulsion here. It's going to quickly do a random pattern on it, and then I'm going to take myself a default patch. That would do. I'm going to slap that in, and anyone who knows Kong, that when you load up a default patch, especially these default patches, they've actually got them all basically routed to the master outs, and that is it. So when I hit play, you're going to see them come out the master outs. Magic button, automatically configures them all. Grab another one. Magic button. So let's actually kick off by wiring these up to their individual pads. I'm not going to do them all for this demonstration, but you're going to get the idea. Now, I suspect the first thing what will confuse a lot of people is when they actually come in here and you have a look at your drum outputs and you click down, you don't really have 16 separate outs. They give you these outputs 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Blah blah blah, up to 15 and 16. Well, main output L and R is equivalent of output 1 and 2. That's how you have to think of it. And the other thing is, when we actually look at these outputs, so I'm going to actually wire up 3 and 4 to start with. So I'm going to click on number 3. I'm going to come down here and put that onto 3 and 4. I'm going to click on number 4, come down here and put that to 3 and 4. Now you're going to say, well, they're going out to the same stereo outputs. Well, yes, that's the key word there, stereo. So we're going to take this pan knob, which isn't really a pan knob, and I'll talk about that in a minute, and I'm going to take this pan knob and pan it to the right. So I pan that one to the left, that one to the right, so now they're separate. So it's just a simple case really of now coming to the back and we're going to wire these up. Now, when I want to wire up mono channels, I always do it from right to left. So if I come to number 4 in this particular case, because that's going to be number right, and I'm going to say route to mixer channel, it's actually routed it, as you can see, as a mono channel. And the same with this one here. It's going to route it as a mono channel. If I'd started on the left-hand side and done it, it does it as a stereo channel. Then you have to disconnect one and then you have to route the other one and so on and so forth. But me being lazy, I prefer to obviously come here, right-click that, click on that, do that, and click on that. So I'm just going to actually clear that up for the moment, just so we can see what's going on when I'm going to do some other stuff. And obviously down here, this is the main, what I refer to as the main. We can obviously disconnect that, and we do have to actually add another one of them in. Now, earlier I said this isn't really a pan. I said that's a balance. Now, one thing to bear in mind is the order that you set some stuff up with. So I've just got a couple of little simple samples here just to play around with. Now at the moment, as you know, I've already configured 3 and 4. If I now grab this sample and drop it, say, on that pad there, it's actually going to reconfigure this particular output, which is, it's just a pain, not an issue. So you just have to obviously come back in again, you have to reset it. If in this case here, number 3, I was to say, well, actually I know I'm loading up a sample, so I'm going to load up myself a little and then nano, and then take it here and drop it down here, it won't affect it. So it's just a simple little gotcha. A little bit of a pain, but there we go, but not a major issue. Now, what I'm also going to do is I'm going to click on number 2 and I'm going to do the same. Well, it doesn't actually matter. I can take that and push that straight onto number 2 there, and then I'm going to configure that to come out of the same ports as 3 and 4 for this next bit of demonstration. There we go, 3 and 4. And by the way, so for 5 and 6, you'll obviously wire that up to 5 and 6. That'd be 5 and 6. 7, 8, 7, 8, go on and so on and so forth. And obviously you wire at the back, so then you have all pads, and obviously you do your panning and you've got all your pads sussed. Now, if you've already got a pre-configured kit, when you've done your panning, remember to turn things like your bus FX down, because if not, they're all going to be going routing through that main one, which will be then coming through this equivalent of what these 2 drums would be. So there's them little gotchas there as well, what you have to watch out for. But as I've said to start with, this is pan to the left, this is pan to the right. Oh, no. Oh, I reset it, didn't I? Remember, because I dropped it on there, it resets everything. This one here is pan to the middle. So, middle, as you can see, cool, tick.
This is a
to my left.
This is a right channel.
So I'm going to move this one down here out of the way so we can have these two up here. Now, obviously, if I pan, and this is a true pan, I pan this over, it should really move all the content over to the left-hand side. But as I said, it's not. It's actually a balance. So now, if I play, you've got no sound.
This is a middle.
Still got our middle, and obviously our middle's, by the way, our middle is actually a mono sample. So no matter where I sort of put that pan, you're always going to be able to hear this. Yeah, it's always going to come out on one of the sides.
This is a middle channel.
Whereas these, you can hear they've gone dead. And the reason I'm really pointing that out is because some people, you can get stereo, obviously, sample packs, and you can also get them, they've already got their pre-effects on them. So some will already have reverbs, or they might have an echo delay. You know, you can get some with compressions and all the rest of it. Ideally, you really want dry samples, and then you want to put your effects on afterwards. But if you've got these preconditioned samples, and you then start moving the balance, because you're not moving the pan, you could lose half your stereo fields, you could lose half that sound, and then when you come in here, you might be going, why does it sound so different? When you play it in another device, you could hear it, and if you panned it, you play it in here, you can say it's going to sound different, because yeah, you've lost half your stereo field. If you've got, say, these stereo samples, and you really want to use stereo samples, well, what can you do? Well, it's quite simple. You do wire this up to, obviously, the master, left and right. This would be wired up to 3 and 4, 5 and 6, 7, 8. So you wire these 8 up in stereo, put them in a combinator, then you'd wire up another Kong, and then you wire these up. So that would be the master left and right. That would be 3 and 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, so on and so forth. And that would be your 15 and 16. So you just have them with samples, these with samples, stacked on top of each other inside a combinator. So when you're playing a combinator, you would then get all your stereo outputs. Obviously, you'd have to come round to the back, and these would be going out to just one mixer channel. So you have these going wired up in stereo. And it's that simple to get that side of things working. And as I say, so little gotcha when you're dragging samples in, that's one thing, it resets things. And if you really wanted stereo, you have to do that. Obviously, if you're using just one sample, I might say to you, hey, go and use another device. Obviously, the big advantage of using something like Kong is the fact that we do have this model synthesis built into it. I actually like it. Yeah, it's 14 years old now, so there is other model synthesis out there which is really, really advanced, but I actually like the way these actually sound. Yeah, and that's why I think a lot of people like Kong is because we can actually mix things up a bit, and obviously we've got multiple layer of samples in this, and you can do all kinds of lovely velocities and all sorts of other bits and bobs. Anyway, let's move on. So what I'm going to quickly do now is I'm just going to quickly wire the rest of these up. And then we're going to actually have a quick look at the routine of using the combinator that I put together, and I'll talk about and actually go through how you can get that all completely configured up. So we've added ourselves like 16 channels. So I'm just going to hold down my Alt key, which be, is it the Option key? I get confused with the Mac. And it's going to click, so it captures absolutely everything. And then I'm just going to open up my Kong only, and there we go. So I've got myself a Kong open. And what we're going to need, I'm just going to quickly go and grab my config file. There's my little config. So let's grab that in. So if I flip round to the front, and as you can see, everything's obviously wired all over the place. I'm going to right click this, and I'm going to actually lock what is called my Kong device. This version here, as you can see, this is like I got like a Reason 11 version, and obviously I've got a version 12, and I'll also grab a version together using the EMIs for people for Reason 7 and above for it to work. So I'm going to click on that. You have to click on it twice, and you can see now the outputs have all gone. So what it does, it does the panning for you automatically. It turns your bus send down as well. So if you've got a bus send, it'll turn that down. Obviously it puts that to the left and right, and it does the panning for that as well. And that's what it's actually doing. So what's actually happening inside this? Well, it's quite simply, it's got a lot of MIDI outs. So what we're going to do is we're going to send the MIDI out. It hits a loopback. The loopback comes back in. I've got myself a special mapping set up, which you just download and just copy into a directory. And then that's pointing at here. So we've got a surface controller. We come in here, and it actually just automatically does everything for you. So it just sort of by using this particular combinator. And it's all under the programmer. So if we click on each of the MIDI out, it's to do with all these, and this is what's actually sending the data out, and which is what's actually resetting everything and making it all nice and hunky-dory. So from my Dropbox, you can download this Kong Config PB. When you decompress it, just decompress it wherever you want for the moment. That's what I tend to do. This is what the structure actually looks like. There's actually a README file. We'll have a quick look at that. There's this like remote directory, and inside remote, there's just a couple of directories. One called maps, which has my PoohBear map in it. Very straightforward. And the other one is just a simple codec and a simple little picture for when you're setting it up as a Surface controller. Now the README file has all these kind of instructions in it, so it's got all your different locations. There is actually another location. I'll make sure I put that in the description as well, depending on where you actually have got your remotes installed. They can be in 2 different places, it seems like, on in Windows. There's obviously other instructions how you actually do go and set things up as well within this particular README file. Simple case of right clicking and just copying this directory and then copying it to the appropriate place. I say different people have it set up. I've got mine set up under ProgramData and Propellerhead. That's how it happens to be still. So it's because it's so old. There we go, Propellerhead Software. You can start seeing your remote stuff in here, so you can just install it straight into there. And by the way, when you take that remote directory and you drop it here, it's going to tell you, hey, the directories already exist. You can just say yes, because obviously the remote exists, and inside the remote you've obviously got maps and you've got codecs, so it's going to prompt you, and you just say yes to all and it will actually install it. So this is the Loop MIDI software I like to use. Obviously Mac users, you're lucky, you've got things built in. You can obviously use whatever MIDI stuff you actually want to use on Windows, but I just use this, and it is a simple case that you just download it and you run it and you install it. And I've been using this for years, so this is really, really safe. And I mean, I've been using it for donkey's years. Yeah, probably is going back to about that sort of time. It's just something I liked because it's nice and simple. This is what it looks like Loop MIDI running. So obviously different software looks slightly different. There's a simple about screen, there's an advanced screen, which I've never ever touched, never needed to. And obviously in the setup. So in the setup, we come down here and I'm gonna create myself a port called Kong. It's got to be called Kong, and for some reason I can't spell. There we go, Kong. You click on this little plus. That's the MIDI port done. That's your MIDI loopback set up. Bob's your uncle. Now we've got to go and set up a Surface controller inside Reason. So inside Reason, we're going to set ourselves up a Surface controller for that MIDI loopback to come back onto. So I'll click on the Add Manual. Then what we've got to do is select PoohBear. Under the PoohBear, under the model, you don't have all these models, but you should have one which says PoohBear Kong now. Put our MIDI port in, which we called Kong. And that's it. That's it done. It's now set up. And you should be able to get it, and you should get yourself a nice little green tick, and we're all ready to go. Bob's your uncle. Now, by the way, if you happen to set up your loopback, then you restarted Reason, make sure that the easy MIDI inputs didn't capture that MIDI port. And that goes for any kind of controller. So if you come along with a brand new controller and plug it in and then start Reason up and you haven't configured it, there's a good chance it's just going to try and grab it in this easy MIDI inputs. And then it starts to get a bit confusing when you're trying to start to grab the MIDI port, and things get a bit confusing. So just make sure that if it's in here and it's enabled, you just untick it prior to setting up. Make your life easy. Right, unfortunately my machine actually rebooted, but this is now Reason 10 up. I'm actually going to be wired up, so I'm going to very quickly wire this up again, just like I had the other one wired up. Yes, I have got it saved as a patch in a different file, so that's something I recommend you doing. So once you wire this up once, you can obviously save this in. I don't really call it a template file. You could call it a template file. I call them scratch files. So I have loads of files with loads of little goodies wired up inside them, ready for me to go and copy and paste out if I need to. I do have a couple of template files, which obviously that's where I go file new. So I won't have this sort of thing in a new file. As I said again, I can now hold down my Alt key and actually I can clap these all down. And I can just expand that one there, because that's what I want to see and look at. Now what I'm going to actually do is I'm going to quickly grab my combinator. So in here, he says, this one here, quickly grab that combinator. I have a few errors because this is actually my favourites from Reason 12. So it's obviously having some issues. So if we go in here and have a quick look at show programmers, you can actually see we've got our external MIDI devices here. But what I've got to do very quickly is actually add my Surface controller. So I'm going to quickly jump in and add that. Let's just bring this screen across so you can see it. So remember, add manually. I'm going to grab this screen across so you can see it better. Manufacturer is going to be PoohBear. A little bit garbled. I think that's again because of that's been a lot of stuff I've been doing in Reason 12. So here's my Kong, keep calling it a Korg. There we go. Let's grab that up, and I'm going to just rename the name so it doesn't say PoohBear. PoohBear absolutely everywhere. So there we go, PoohBear Kong, and obviously the channel I need to select is that Kong channel. It's just off the screen, but there we go. So I've selected Kong. And here it is, it's all saying it's ready to go. So theoretically, if I was to click on, say, one of these and come down here, we can see it says master out. So if I make sure, as I said, I need to right click now and come down and lock that device. So it's just off the screen, that's it there. I can lock that's to there. If I click a bit higher, would it appear a bit higher? There, it's appeared a bit higher for you. So there you go. So you can see I've actually locked that to that device. And obviously I can now come down, he says, I can now scroll this down and we can see it. So I'm going to click that on and off, and we can see that this has actually all gone to our separate outputs. Hey, Bob's your uncle. And I say, that's using Reason 10. Anyway, sorry, a bit of a longish video, and even though I had a bit of a reboot in between, you can see how quickly we've actually got this configured up in a different version of Reason. So what it's going to lead me to say is I'll put everything in the descriptions for where you can go and get the LoopBack, where you can actually go and download the zip file to obviously get hold of the combinators, and I think that's about it really, isn't it? If there's anything else I can think of, oh yeah, I'll probably put a link into my guide to the how to set up the EMI and LoopBacks, because I've done a video about 6 or 7 years ago on that. Admittedly, it talks about the EMI and that you just replace it with the MIDI out device if you're using Reason 12 or Reason 11 as well. So yeah, so thank you for watching and bye for now.